The Energy Union strategy was a concept developed by the Juncker Commission back in 2015. I have to mention Mr. Juncker since he came also from Luxembourg. It aimed at building an energy union that gives EU consumers, households and businesses secure, sustainable, competitive and affordable energy. Over time, these simple four words have evolved into an enormous bureaucracy. Earlier, the colleague from the Commission needed almost 10 minutes just to enumerate the around 20 pillars of the current initiative on affordable energy. Over time, the Energy Union has become a part of the Commission's decarbonization agenda.
How dare you!
A concept primarily meant to secure Europe's energy supplies at affordable prices has been turned progressively into an instrument of the green ideology. I hold the point of view that none of the four initial goals of the Energy Union has been reached. Let me first look at our main economic actors, our industries, whose problems I summarize as follows. First, there exists a large number of inconsistent or even contradictory requirements spread across EU legislation. This creates unnecessary uncertainties for our industries and enterprises, as well as high costs and eye-watering administrative burdens. In some cases, energy efficiency requirements can even impede companies' efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Efforts to reduce the administrative burden are now visible, but still largely insufficient. Second, Europe is faced with ongoing deindustrialization. This phenomenon could be accelerated further through current US tariff policies. In Europe, overall reduction in energy consumption is largely due to carbon leakage and industrial closures. For companies still staying in Europe, low-carbon energy is not available in a reliable manner or in sufficient quantities. Renewable energies cannot replace fossil or nuclear power sources, neither in quantity nor in quality. Nevertheless, the EU Commission worryingly continues to believe that renewable energy sources can ensure EU energy independence, which is clearly wrong.
It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Clean Tech Conference 2025.
Energy infrastructure and grids lack connectivity. We have, however, to accept that some countries might wish to stick to regional cooperation. Because of the emissions trading system, production costs continue to increase and companies ask for privileged access for their low-carbon goods in public tenders. Such market distortions increase inflationary pressures. Third, even though efforts are made to reduce the administrative burden of the carbon border adjustment mechanism, the efficiency of the system remains disputed. The problem is broader than just technicalities, as is often presented in discussions. The question too often ignored is the following: why does the EU pursue, alone among all major economic actors, a decarbonization policy at enormous costs, a policy that brings almost no measurable benefits to the climate but ruins its economy? It is my profound and distinct conviction that the expression net zero does not relate to emissions of carbon dioxide, but represents the degree of industrialization of our European continent in 2040. Net zero leads to the deindustrialization and impoverishment of Europe. In order to obtain a secure, sustainable, competitive and affordable energy, we have to abandon or fundamentally change a number of EU policies. Let me briefly discuss the necessary measures. First, secure energy. We need to diversify our energy sources. Europe must continue to use fossil energies as long as necessary. It must develop in parallel nuclear energy and continue the research in nuclear fusion and other energies such as hydrogen that could in future provide us with low-cost, reliable and sufficient energy. Second, sustainable energy. We have to acknowledge that alternative energies can only make a limited contribution to our energy mix. In addition, the notion of sustainable industrial production represents a considerable risk for our industries, notably our car, steel and chemical industries, since the so-called green industrial production ruins their worldwide competitiveness. Third, competitive and affordable energies. In order to achieve that goal, Europe has to again look to include cheap gas supplies from Russia as part of its energy mix. The systematic circumvention by EU members of the EU's own sanctions that we witness today is hypocritical and excessively expensive. In the last years, we have seen how sanctions have contributed to weakening our economies without achieving their political goals. Therefore, we have to correct this policy. Let me finish by stating that Europe needs an energy union that ensures to all of its parts a sufficient supply of cheap energy to be competitive. Our main obstacle to achieve an EU energy union is our own ideological blindness. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to completely abandon the present suicidal doctrine of the green transition and immediately come back to economic reason. And secondly, through diplomacy, we have to create geopolitical conditions that allow us to again rely on a more diversified and much cheaper mix of energy sources. Thank you very much.